WhatsApp or Viber or any other sort of instant messaging app. There's loads. Now, you know the way there's always that one person, there's always one, who is forever sending messages like, is there anyone free for chats, or what's everyone doing this evening, or my favorite, how come no one's writing back to me? No, no. Screams of neediness. Well, I hate to say this. In fact, it kills me to say this, but at some point in my life, that person was me. I was the one who would spend every waking and non-working moment bombarding the girls with messages like, oh my god, girls, I'm so horny, do something. As if there was anything they could do to relieve me of my horniness. Being the loving friends that they are, they would often reply and say something along the lines of this. Seriously, Fifi? It's 8 o'clock on a Saturday morning. What are you even doing up? Go back to bed or go to the gym. But stop complaining about being horny when you're the one who decided to give a penis for a year. You couldn't have just given up chocolate, no? Before you all go off and accuse me of being some sort of nympho, I would like to share a story with you. 3 years ago, I walked in on my boyfriend and found another woman in his bed. She looked very different to me. Blonde, had big green eyes, and from what I can tell, had such soft, delicate skin. Besides the obvious difference in our appearance, the first thing I asked myself was, what does she have that I don't? What is she giving you that I'm not giving you? What is it about this person that made you want her more than you wanted me? I didn't realize this at the time, but looking back now, I've come to discover that it was at that very moment, and it was in my very way of reasoning, that I started to associate sex with self-worth. My goal, in every relationship that followed, was to seek worth through having sex, through giving pleasure and making sure I was good at it too. But where did that get me? Looking outside myself to find self-worth, giving men the power to place value on me. That doesn't get you anywhere. That doesn't get you anywhere, because if how you determine your own worth depends solely on others, then you will never find it. It took me a while to come to terms with this, but when I finally did, I decided that I was going to start looking after myself again. So at the end of 2014, I decided to vow to a year of celibacy. I made a decision to not have sex for 365 days. Now, I can imagine some of the men in the audience thinking, well, there's someone I'd never date. Rest assured, I am not here to impose celibacy on anyone. That is not my intention. If anything, I would tell you not to do it. Have sex. Have loads of sex. You only get one life. Enjoy it while it lasts. That is what you say to someone who's in a good place mentally. That is what you tell someone who has a healthy relationship with sex. Unfortunately for me, I was one of those people. I was someone who had to find my own value without having to depend on a man. So that's what I did. When I told people about my self-imposed celibacy, the initial reaction, as you can probably imagine, was, you're obviously a lesbian. Or, but you're too gorgeous to be celibate. As if my looks had absolutely anything to do with what I am saying for having sex. Men wanted me more, typically. I think the desire to have me was fueled by their oversized egos. Women, or more specifically, feminist women, thought that in being celibate, I was oppressing my sexuality as a female. Everyone else just thought I was a weirdo. They thought something was wrong with me because I made a decision that was seen as going against today's norm. They translated not having sex to not writing ahead, which to me is rather concerning because they made it seem as though not a single person could ever survive a year without getting their fix. Did you know that 1% of the world population is asexual? That there are millions of people worldwide who do not experience feelings of sexual desire? of course, that's not to say that being asexual is synonymous with being celibate, but it does show that there are people out there who do not hold sex with such high regard, but still live perfectly normal lives. Was my year of celibacy easy? That it wasn't. But that's not to say it's impossible. I remember in the first few months of my celibacy, I turned to food. Actually, I turned to pizzas, and donuts, and ice cream. I wanted all the bad stuff because it made me feel so good. Until it didn't. Until I found myself actually depending on the food that I was eating to replace what was missing in my life. So I basically went from having an unhealthy relationship with sex to having an even unhealthier relationship with food. And it was only until I saw the effect this was having on me physically, mentally, and emotionally that I said, enough is enough. It's time for you to focus on something you're actually going to benefit from in the long run. So what did I do? I had sex and now I'm not celibate anymore. I turned to fitness and I found that the more I focused on exercising and improving my self-esteem, the less I needed a man to do that for me. You see, exercising did more than just improve my physical strength. In a sense, it gave me the power I needed to take back control over my own body. In spending more time in the gym and improving my physique, I started to eat healthier and I started to think healthier. It helped me figure out what it was that I wanted from life and how I wanted to be treated. It was about me again. I wasn't going to the gym so that men would want me more. I wasn't doing squats so that I would be deemed worthy. I was doing it for me. I felt whole. I felt centered. I felt worth it. And having more control over my sex life, should I say lack of, it gave me the time I needed to focus on building my self-esteem again. It is an experience I will never forget or regret. It is something that no one can ever take away from me. My year of celibacy taught me that I don't need to have sex to feel wanted. I don't need to give my body to someone to feel loved. And I don't need to share one of the most intimate acts with a man to feel worthy. Now, to address the pink elephant in the room, my pledge to celibacy ended back in January. It's May now. So I'm sure you're all wondering, has she broken her celibacy? Does she go a year and 5 months? Does she still have a functioning vagina? You're allowed to have questions. If you must know, I am no longer celibate. I think what changed the most about breaking my celibacy is my perspective. I feel that anyone I have sex with going forward will not be as a result of me wanting to feel valued. It will simply be me, acting on my animal instincts to fulfill a sexual desire, rather than me acting on an insecurity to seek self-validation. Before I let you go, I think it's important for me to say that you don't need to give up sex for 12 months to learn what I did. So if you take anything from my story, let it be this. There's a reason it's called self-esteem, self-acceptance, self-worth. Self. It's about you. It's not about Tom. It certainly isn't about Dick. And it's never going to be about Harry. Self-worth. The sense of someone's worth and value as a person. It can only come from you. Thank you.